Hello, friends. The 1015th day of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. The Russians have advanced in the Kurakhove and Pokrovsk directions, as evidenced by the deep state map. In particular, in the center of Kurakhove itself, having already taken control of most of the city. Ukrainian military experts report the loss of the key settlement of Stari Terny, the loss of which significantly complicates the retention of the industrial zone of Kurakhove. According to the fighter Mutnoy, the enemy took control of Stari Terny and consolidated its position south of the village on the dam of the Kurakhove reservoir. According to him, the Russians are already setting up positions for anti-tank missile systems that monitor the Zaporizhzhia-Kurakhove highway. In fact, Kurakhove is in operational encirclement, and thus it will not be easy to hold high-rise buildings in the city, but there is an industrial zone behind it that can serve as a reliable defense, writes Mutnoy. Ukrainian military observer Merezhnikov also reports the loss of Stari Terny. According to him, the settlement was a fairly strong stronghold, which we lost in a day. Questions like, how did this happen, and the like will be rather rhetorical. The feeling of déjà vu does not leave. The enemy could have laid down a brigade for the village, but laid down less than a battalion. That's the whole result. Yes, there is a critical shortage of people. Yes, there is a shortage of shells and weapons. But everything happened too quickly, Merezhnikov wrote. I would also like to note that the situation is complicated by the fact that, in addition to reaching the rear of the units in Kurakhove, a direct route to Dachne opens from Stari Terny. In the event of the loss of Dachne, this will completely cut off the supplies of the units both in Kurakhove itself and reduce to zero the logistics in the formed pocket to the south. To the south, the enemy has made significant progress in the direction of the highway to Kurakhove, from the west in the area of Suhy Yali and Kostiantynopolsky. Fighting is already underway in both settlements. The Russians advanced to Pokrovsk from the southeast along the main highway. According to a fighter with the call sign Mukshna, the Russians have begun to encircle the village of Shevchenko from the flanks. This village is of strategic importance to the enemy. They will use it for the purpose of accumulation for further offensive actions. All other villages are not suitable for this function, so there will be a serious fight for Shevchenko, writes Mukshna. A Ukrainian officer with the call sign Alex reports that the situation in the Shevchenko-Novotroitske area is very difficult. The Russians are throwing heaps of manpower, just masses of infantry, into the assaults. In groups of 5-ton people, they are trying to make their way through ravines, gullies along the railway, crawling through difficult terrain. They are trying to bypass Shevchenko with such a maneuver, so they will send even more manpower to break through a corridor, bypass the settlement, with the prospect of taking it. Shevchenko is a very important settlement because it is the flank of Pokrovsk. The city is literally a few fields from there, writes Alex. Russia is preparing for an offensive on Kherson and plans to cross the Dnipro by boat, Prokudin, head of the Kherson Regional Military Administration, told the Financial Times. Russia wants to launch another offensive here, Prokudin said. According to him, the Russians have assembled 300 boats to cross the river. Bruchuk, a spokesman for the Ukrainian Volunteer Army South, said that the Russians continued to try to seize islands on the Dnipro to get closer to the western bank of Kherson. They recently carried out a large-scale attack on Kozhetskoye Island near Novotroitske. Ukrainian officials suspect that the attack on Kherson is part of Russia's plan to increase pressure on Kiev before Trump's arrival. Now Kherson is constantly being attacked by drones that hunt for civilians. This has accelerated the exodus of the city's population. According to the Financial Times, only 60,000 people remain from the pre-war 250,000. In the region, 158,000 people remain from 1 million. At the same time, the Ukrainian military in their Telegram channels associate the intensification of the fighting for the islands with the deterioration of the weather. The weather conditions complicate patrolling timely detection of the enemy on the approaches to the islands and communications remaining between the western and eastern shores. Therefore, the enemy is actively trying to advance and accumulate for new attempts at assault actions, writes Ukrainian fighter Bunyatov. Let me remind you that her son was occupied for the first 9 months of the war and was liberated during the counteroffensive of the Ukrainian armed forces on November 11, 2022. The Russians then retreated from the city without a fight. Friends, this channel exists solely thanks to your support. If you have the opportunity and desire to support the channel, I will be very grateful to you. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.